Welcome to The Read Along,
a mini book club for your ears.
I'm your host, Scott.
I'm your other host, Anita.
And join us on a journey through a good book,
one chapter at a time.
Do you like talking about movies? Do you like talking about mediocre movies? Do you like talking about how you could have fixed mediocre movies? Well, I certainly do, and you can listen to me, Scott C. Bourgeois, along with my co-hosts Greg Beaver and Liam Creswick, as we give our notes, and I have some notes. You can follow it now on your podcatcher of choice, or support it by visiting patreon.com/IHaveSomeNotes. Our youngest turns 5 this week.
Yeah, by the end of the week.
Will be a little person. Already a little person.
Because she's not already?
A huge personality for such a tiny thing.
I think that's pretty normal, though.
Yeah, fair enough. But yeah, getting up there. We started this podcast before our eldest was born.
That's true.
And we were under the impression that we might get through a book and see how things went.
Yeah, a book, maybe 2.
Yeah.
And now here we are.
He's turning 9.
He'll be 9 this summer.
Yep.
Which means our podcast is somewhere between 9 and 10 years old.
Yeah.
Probably closer to 10.
We're definitely coming up on 400 episodes.
That's a lot. That feels like a lot.
That is a lot, because we've been coming out virtually every week for that entire time.
Have we skipped any weeks?
We missed one because I got unexpectedly sick.
Oh, yes. When you got vertigo, we had to skip the week.
Other than that, we've been plugging on through continuously. We're on our, 14th, 15th book now.
Good for us.
We're several years into this and have more podcast episodes out than a lot of podcasts do.
Bonkers.
So, yeah.
Like, in the good way.
Yeah.
Look at that little podcast chugging along still.
Indeed.
Go, girl.
And I mean, to be fair, we also, we're not putting out 2-hour podcasts every week or anything.
No, that's true. We're putting together, half-hour podcasts.
At most.
At most.
And I mean, that was always the remit, though, is that this was meant to be an easily digestible podcast for on the go so that you could enjoy the discussions of a book club week to week in little chunks. So you didn't have to read a whole book in the month or something.
You take your time.
Yeah, exactly.
And consume as is convenient for
Indeed.
you.
I mean, you could read the whole book in a week and then, one of our previous books, and then just binge that whole book.
Yeah. To each his own. You do you.
But for us, it's a steady journey through a book every week with no reading ahead and no spoilers so that we can do what everybody loves. Make wild, irresponsible guesses about what's going on. Accuse various characters of crimes. Try to figure out where the plot is going and almost inevitably get it wrong.
It's true. Read something and then immediately get to dissect it.
Indeed. So why don't we continue doing that with our current book?
We should.
Indeed.
Yes, let's.
So before we get into that, though, a brief recap of our second chapter in which Dani has a meeting with the mysterious Archer, her mother's former partner, and he makes her an offer that is too good to be true, but one that she cannot refuse, which is for her to do one big job, a seemingly impossible job,
Yes.
in exchange for getting back everything that she lost when she turned on her mother.
Yes.
And
more or less.
Dani's not certain that it's possible for him to deliver, but she's willing to give it a shot. And that leads us into Chapter 3 of The Frame Up by Gwenda Bond.
So the countdown continues. We are now 9 days out.
Yeah, because Dani basically leaves the meeting with Archer and crashes. And then the next morning meets up with the dirtbag's ex.
Yeah, gets the current job over with and out of the way.
All squared up. And apparently declines an offer for a day of drinking in celebration because she's got somewhere to be. And that is to head back to the old stone house.
Yeah.
And so she piles Sunflower into the car and she
drives all day.
Basically, yeah. She has a bit of reminiscing on the journey.
Kind of.
As she puts it in her kind of internal monologue, it's hard not to think about the past when you're on your way back into the past.
Right? But I don't feel like I know that much more than I did already.
We get a little bit more about her mom.
A little bit, but not a lot.
Enough that we can start to paint a bit of a picture. First of all, we now know that her mother's name is Maria.
Right?
Maria Poisson. We also know what Maria was up to. She had stumbled into the realm of art thievery, but she fell into it on kind of both sides. On the one hand, lifting valuable artwork from museums and collections, and then on the other hand, selling herself as a consultant, a security consultant to these places, so that thefts like this didn't happen anymore. So she was kind of playing both angles.
Yeah.
And this kind of also then explains why Archer was going to be able to pull some strings to get Dani hired on by this collection, because Dani's got this pedigree from this woman who worked as a security consultant, right?
Right.
So the name Poisson must still mean something in art security.
In the right circles?
Yeah. And that is why she was able to kind of like land in this role very easily. But as I kind of breezed past, we also learn a little bit more about the history of the magical world here.
Yeah. It's... So everyone manifests a magical talent. Like if you're going to manifest a magical talent, if you are a magical person, you get like a skill.
It seems to be the case, yeah.
It's very Xanth. If you're at all familiar with that. If you are a magical person, you have your one skill, your one magical trait.
Everyone is an X-Man.
Yeah, you've got your one thing.
You've got your thing. As opposed to, like, I've studied a grimoire and I can cast 1,000 spells.
Yeah, exactly. It's not like D&D magic where you have a collection of spells and you can do a bunch of things.
In this case, it's you got the thing that you can do. And
it's like, oh, this is my one magic. This is my magic. This is what I have.
Yeah, and art thievery apparently has been a thing in the magical world for a while, because the famous theft of the Mona Lisa, the story that the public knows was a guy hid in a closet and then brazenly walked out with it. But apparently those in the know, wink, know that it was a magically fueled endeavor. Dani's mom, Maria, kind of is following in those footsteps, and in doing so attracted the attention of the mysterious Archer and began a long partnership with him, and started putting together a regular crew from the sounds of it.
Maybe it's just the way I read it. I'm not sure. But Dani makes it sound like this is what magic has wrought. Magic has wrought art thievery. Like, if you're magic, you're into thieving art.
Now,
and those two things are together forever.
I don't know that that's necessarily the case. And I wouldn't even go so far as to say that the magical underworld is exclusively a realm of kind of like criminals and ne'er-do-wells. I think that that's partly colored by Dani's perception, because that's the world she's steeped in.
Yeah, I know.
She's coming at it from, I've only ever known heists and art thefts and criminals and fences and stuff, and these are the people who I associate with magic. So Dani's corner of the magical world is this like little criminal corner. There could be a larger magical world, or people could just be in general gaming the system with their powers.
I mean,
and so it could
sense.
very well all be crime.
Could be
under the surface, but I don't know. My impression is that it's colored by her experience.
It's just how she presents it, that if you're magic, you do art heists. Like, those are the two things. Also, you think if there were magical crimes, there would be magical crime fighters.
We don't know that there's not.
Okay, fair point. But they haven't been mentioned yet. And you'd think that by now, we would have heard something.
Quite possibly.
Just saying.
But hard to say. Dani makes her way back to the old house, and she arrives kind of in the evening. It's a very surreal experience for her. Like, she, right up to the moment where she opens the lock, she's half expecting someone to yank the rug out from under her.
Yeah.
And for it to not kind of manifest, but everything seems on the up and up. The deed looks legit. The key fits the lock. The door opens, and she's presented with, albeit a slightly changed version of her childhood home, because other people have lived in it since.
Yes.
And so it's like all the old furniture is not there. Some of it is, but not all of it. Some of the stuff is long gone, and the house has that like musty, nobody's been living here in a little while kind of feeling to
it. That stale air kind of feel.
Yeah, but the house is not empty.
No.
Because there's someone
Not.
waiting for her.
Yes, this is where we meet Rose.
Yeah, it turns into a brief, quick standoff.
To be fair, she walked into what she thought was going to be an empty house that is hers now, and there's a stranger in it. I would have freaked out too.
Yeah, but at the same time, because she's so primed for betrayal in this moment, she just immediately assumes the worst.
Yeah.
When in fact, it's quite innocent. Rose has been there for a while, having expected her to show up sooner, and finally got bored and let herself in.
I guess.
So it's not the best first impression, but things, after a brief standoff involving a gun, an X-Acto knife, and a dog, things de-escalate, and a conversation begins to ensue. And we learn Rose is basically a factotum for the Hackworth family.
More or less, like a personal curator and procurement specialist.
Yeah, apparently Rose is the person who was helping William, the now deceased patriarch of the family, to put together this vast and valuable collection. And she has been the one mainly responsible for trying to enact his wishes posthumously. Like, she's the one who's been mainly trying to stymie the family's attempts to like break up the collection.
Yeah.
Because I get the impression the will was very strongly in
Ironclad,
favor of trying to keep this together. But she ended up on the losing side of that. She's still employed by the family, probably because she knows the collection better than anybody.
Probably.
And so they have continued to retain her to help with the sale.
Yeah.
She's technically in the employ of William's son, who I guess was the main inheritor for the collection, but he's largely in favor of breaking it up and liquidating it so they can get the money.
Yeah.
Which she finds a little distasteful. You get kind of, based on how she describes him, kind of playboy vibes from him. Apparently the family's interesting because Dani at one point is like, what's the rest of them like? And she's like, oh, if you thought you had a bad reception with me, wait until you meet all of William's wives.
Oh, God.
Of which I assume there are exes.
Several, yes, I'm sure.
Yeah, she makes it pretty clear that she's there on his behalf because she was informed that Dani was hired by him to manage security because the old security manager had an unfortunate heart attack. He's up in hospital. And Dani actually wonders, was that pure coincidence or did someone like Archer make that happen?
That's the problem with our current vague knowledge of magic.
Yeah.
Right? We don't know what anyone is capable of or not.
Yeah, it's very possible that Archer himself or someone associated with him made sure that the head of security would not be there so that Dani could slip in.
Maybe.
Or it's possible that it's just a convenient coincidence.
Also maybe. I don't know.
Hard to say when magic is involved.
We're only 3 chapters in and I don't have enough information.
Yeah. The information we do get, though, is that Dani's not going to have a chance to see the collection early.
No.
She has to wait and see it at the same time as everybody else. But she does have a little security briefing that she can go over tonight. And then tomorrow, which is when the viewing's going to happen, will be the first time she's going to get to lay eyes on the collection.
Right.
And then a week from now, the collection goes on sale.
Yes.
So she has that much time to plan a heist. And with that, Rose kind of takes her leave. Like, here's the keys, here's a cell phone. We'll see you tomorrow,
Here's
basically.
the info you need, bye.
Yeah. And Dani begins kind of making an inventory of all of the things that she needs to do in a rough order of priority.
Yeah. But, okay. So now she has to collect a couple of people.
Because she's going to need a team. She can't do it by herself.
Exactly. She needs to, like, organize herself and these people, and she has to be somewhere by 11 a.m. Dani has a very busy morning ahead of her.
Yeah. The first person that she knows she's going to need is someone named Rabbit, who was her mom's basically tech expert.
I think so.
Yeah. And she's like, that's the one person from my mom's old crew who I definitely need to lock down.
Yeah.
It sounds like her mom was actually planning a heist on this place.
Maybe. Maybe this was the one that was always in the works as they tried to figure it out.
Yeah, before she got nabbed. So she's very aware that she definitely needs this Rabbit person on board. And apparently Rabbit is also affiliated with another person from Dani's past whose magic power might be empathic. Hard to say. Because she's like, I should drop in on him as well, but I'm close enough that he should already sense that I'm here. And if he wants to talk to me, I imagine he'll drop by.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is wonderfully vague.
Yeah. So I'm assuming it's some sort of empathic power.
Maybe. Probably. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I have been given so little on these 2 people that we're about to meet that I don't care yet.
that maybe we'll care when we meet them.
I hope so.
Yeah.
I finished this chapter with that info, and I went, okay, but I don't know who these people are enough to care. I wasn't excited about meeting these people.
Well, 'cause
I wasn't
we don't know them
worried. There was nothing. I had no emotional reaction whatsoever. I was like, okay, people.
Well, we learned about Rabbit a little bit in this chapter.
A very little bit.
But yeah, no, but that's fine. It's okay to not care about them yet because we've basically just been name dropped them so far.
Yeah, that's exactly.
So maybe we'll just have to read next chapter.
What?
And find out more.
Yes.
So that would be chapter 4, which you're going to want to read up on in time for next week.
Yes.
In the meantime, of course, as always, give us a little rating and a review because that helps us out.
We always appreciate those.
Indeed. You can also send us an email.
Oh, yes, please. You can reach us at thereadalong@gmail.com.
I did it out of order. You can also send us messages via social media.
Yeah, if you want to put out something shorter. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Skies, and Goodreads. We are at The Read Along on most of those.
Yes, and with that said, as always, we love you very much, and we'll see you next time.
We're going to start getting heisty.
Thank you for joining us on The Read Along with your hosts, Anita and Scott Bourgeois. All Read Along music is by Kevin MacLeod at Incompetech.com. Cover art is by Aaron Beaver. Be sure to join us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at The Read Along, and check out our group on Goodreads.com.